Hold up.
Let's take a moment to recap what you should have done so far before moving on to the next step. So far, you should have set up your business account for Pinterest or converted your personal account to a Pinterest for business account. You should have set up rich pins. Now, before you set up rich pins, you also need to make sure you verify your website in order for you to set up the rich pins. You should have also optimized your profile. This means adding a clear picture, whether it's a brand logo or a picture of yourself. Added keywords to your Pinterest profile title, your Pinterest profile description, keywords to your board names and your board descriptions. You should have also figured out the best group boards for your profile. So now we actually need to create the pins. You've done the technical part, which is really, really important, but the pins are just as important too. Reason being, if your pin is not compelling enough, if it's not attractive enough, or if it doesn't speak to your ideal audience, nobody's going to click on the pin, they're not going to repin, they're not going to click through, meaning they won't go to your website, meaning your traffic will not increase because of Pinterest. So I'm going to give you some guidelines which you should follow. These guidelines have actually been proven by Pinterest, and I've actually followed these guidelines myself and seen an increase in traffic by following these simple steps in order to create your pins. So the first thing you want to do is make sure that you use compelling images for all your pins. Clean images tend to do the best. Reason being, it doesn't take away from the description of the pin. You want to make it attractive enough for your ideal audience, and you want to make sure that the headline is just as engaging as the image. I'd say use images that relate to your ideal audience. For instance, if you are targeting female entrepreneurs, they may be more into more feminine lifestyle images. If you are targeting men who like cars, then clean images with cars may attract that audience a bit more. If you are targeting pet owners, clean images that have dogs or cats or that specific pet in the image do better. As long as you just make sure that it's clean, it's not too much, then your pin is likely to do well. Another thing that has been proven is pins without faces tend to do the best. So if you're going to be creating a pin, try not to add a face. So if you're going to add a face, don't add the whole face, and you'll find that traffic from that particular pin for your page or your blog will most probably increase. I've included 3 pins here that I know that have done really, really well on Pinterest because they follow the same rule. They've used compelling images that are clean and the headline is clear, and you know exactly what the pin is about. So when you click through to the website, you're not surprised. Second thing I'm going to say is when you're creating your images, make sure they're created with a 2:3 ratio. This means that if the width is 600, then the height should be 900, 2:3. The measurement that I found to do really well for me is 735 by 1102. How I found this was before Pinterest made the changes. Now, if you go on Pinterest, you find that they don't actually show the repin count of pins unless you're on your own profile. I found that the pins that were doing really, really well with this measurement, I literally saved it from Pinterest. I checked out the measurement, and this is the one constant I saw across all those pins. So this is the measurement I've been using all the time. Once in a while, I may use longer pins, but you may want to do the same thing. Make sure your pin is 735 by 1102. But even if you don't follow that rule, make sure the ratio is 2:3. Another thing is add text to your images to add context. Now, there are some great images on Pinterest, but they're just images. There's no text, so you don't really know what you're going to see when you click through to the website. By adding the title, people can see exactly what the content is going to be about. So when they click through, they know very well that this content is more than likely to help them with the problem they need, or if they may be shopping for gifts, then they know exactly what they're going to find when they click from the pin onto your website. Another thing you want to do is optimize your pin description. Now, this is a pin that I randomly searched to find specific to see what pins came up in the top search. So the keyword I used was wedding dresses. This pin came 3rd at the top, so it ranked very highly. The pin title was 33 simple wedding dresses for elegant brides. So you can see the word wedding dresses is kind of relevant to the keyword wedding dress. Remember that the search on Pinterest is broad. This means that you don't have to use the exact keyword. It doesn't have to be in the exact order. As long as Pinterest sees it as relevant, your pin will show up. And the Pinterest description, you can see wedding dress and wedding dresses has come up twice. So it's not only keywords that help a pin rank highly. I did mention this before. It's also the number of comments on the pin, the number of repins, and the number of people clicking through to your website and pinning this pin from your website. All these factors affect how high your pin comes up in the rankings. But by adding your keywords, it allows your pin to show up quite frequently. And if it shows up quite frequently, more people will repin and click through to your website. The last thing I'm going to say is adding a call to action. Adding a call to action helps people do what you want them to do. This is a pin that I created last year. This pin was responsible for adding 400 people to my email list in less than a month. Reason being because I had the simple CTA, click here to join the free productivity challenge. Now this pin was tested alongside one that didn't have the call to action. When you run Pinterest ads, Pinterest do not like you to add any call to action that makes you think that there's a button on the pin. So when I did a promoted pin, I had to do one without the call to action. My organic pin with the call to action did better than the promoted pin with no call to action. So if you are offering a free download or a free cheat sheet or something for free, just click here or press here to download, because when an image is clicked on Pinterest, it will send people directly to the website. Now, those are all the tips for creating really good images on Pinterest. The last thing I'm going to say is test variations. These are 3 different pins I created for the latest blog post on my blog. Now, I found that sometimes a pin that you may think is amazing may not necessarily engage the people that you want on Pinterest. So what I found is testing 3 different types of pins can help you identify which pin does the best. And once you find a winner out of your tests, then you can promote the winner and then just ignore the rest. I'd say give it about a month. I like to give everything at least about a month on Pinterest. Give it about a month to see how well each pin does, and then you can decide by then which one you want to continue promoting. I wouldn't recommend deleting the other pins. The reason being, unlike other platforms, Pinterest pins have such a long they have a really long lifespan, and sometimes a pin that doesn't necessarily do well straight away may go viral or do really, really well 3 or 4 months later. So I wouldn't recommend deleting any pins. This was something that people recommended earlier on, but it's not recommended anymore. And I have seen this happen to some of my pins that didn't do really well. Then 6 months later, they've had 5,000 repins out of nowhere. So if you do have others that are not doing so well, keep them on your profile and just continue to promote the one that does really well. So bearing those in mind, I'm going to show you how you can create your own Pinterest templates in Photoshop, Illustrator and Canva, so you can get started creating your pins without spending too much time trying to figure out how it all works.